The Supreme Court has never been asked to decide whether a president can pardon him or herself. But as Paula Reid reports, President Trump issued his own opinion Monday on Twitter.
The president tweeted this morning that while he has no plans to pardon himself, he could if he wanted to. I have the absolute right to pardon myself, but why would I do that when I have done nothing wrong? He also continued his attacks on the legitimacy of the special counsel, tweeting that Robert Mueller's appointment is totally unconstitutional. The president's tweets echo comments from his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, Sunday.
There's nothing that limits the presidential power of pardon from a federal crime.
But Giuliani acknowledged that the question of whether the president can pardon himself is less about legality than politics.
The president of the United States pardoning himself would just be unthinkable, and it would lead to probably an immediate impeachment. You know, you get the House, Senate be under tremendous pressure.
Republican Congressman Will Hurd on Face the Nation.
I think people would erupt. That would create outrage on both sides of the political aisle.
And today, Democratic Senator Ron Wyden, a staunch liberal, shuddered at the thought.
I certainly hope it never reaches that point. That would bring about a full-scale constitutional crisis.
But talk of pardons appears to be getting ahead of the investigation. The president has not decided whether to sit for an interview, and there's no guarantee of indictment, trial, or verdict, all of which would be challenged. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders today.
The president hasn't done anything wrong and wouldn't have any need for a pardon.
The issue of presidential pardons has never been tested in court. In fact, the only official guidance we have on this issue is a 1974 Department of Justice memo issued shortly before President Nixon resigned. And that memo says that a president cannot pardon himself under the fundamental legal principle that you can't be the judge in your own case. Elaine?
Well, Paula, the notion has been raised that if the president were suddenly unable to serve, the vice president would be able to step into his place, pardon the president, and then the president could resume office without issue. Is that a potential workaround to the pardon question?
That is something that is actually specifically laid out in this 1974 memo. They specifically said that, look, if under the 25th Amendment, the president was temporarily unable to do his job, the vice president becomes acting president, can pardon the president for any crimes that he's been charged with. And then the president can either resign or go back to work. A lot of people say this sort of harkens back to Ford and Nixon, but in that case, of course, Nixon didn't go back to work. He had resigned. But here, this is technically a workaround where the president could be pardoned and come right back to the White House. But this also assumes that the president isn't willing to fight for what he believes is an absolute pardon power where he can actually pardon himself. This is only a Justice Department memo, and this could potentially be challenged in court.
Well, President Trump, of course, has not been charged with any crimes, but would different charges have different answers on whether he would be able to pardon himself?
Potentially. I mean, a presidential pardon only extends to charges at the federal level. It does not protect you from anything that comes from the state. Now, at this point, the special counsel probe only covers federal crimes, and so far there is no indication that the president will be criminally charged.
What do you make of the idea that the president's recent pardons, including Dinesh D'Souza most recently, are a signal to those who work in the White House that he's willing to pardon them too?
A lot of people were trying to figure out what is the common link here between Sheriff Arpaio, Dinesh D'Souza, and then these suggestions about pardoning Martha Stewart and Rod Blagojevich. And some people do think that the president is trying to send a message to the people, Paul Manafort, Michael Cohen, people who could potentially cooperate with special counsel but have chosen not to. Now, sources have told me that Paul Manafort is banking on a presidential pardon, though I do not have any confirmation that he's been assured of a presidential pardon. But many people are reading the way the president is handling pardons to be a signal to people in the Russia investigation, a very blunt, bold reminder to them of the absolute pardon power that the president has.
Paula Reid at the White House for us. Paula, thanks so much.